Have you ever wondered what really happened to Hugh Hefner's money? Behind the silken curtains and the glamorous parties of the Playboy mansion lay secrets and stories of immense wealth. Hugh Hefner, the debonair founder of Playboy Enterprises, was not just a magazine mogul, but a symbol of a luxurious, sometimes controversial lifestyle. His life was a public spectacle, adorned with celebrity-studded gatherings and tales that bordered the mythical. From the mid-20th century, Hefner's Playboy mansion became synonymous with opulence and hedonism. Here, A-list celebrities and intellectuals mingled under the watchful eyes of the press, creating a mystique that few could resist. This mansion wasn't just a home, it was an extravagant stage where Hefner showcased his empire and influence. But beyond the velvet ropes and the flashbulbs, there was a complex man whose financial dealings were as intricate as the grottos of his famed residence. As the world watched this empire of pleasure and provocation thrive, few understood the financial wizardry that supported it. But when the parties ended, the question arose: what happened to Hugh Hefner's fortune? Hugh Hefner wasn't just a charismatic figure. He was a shrewd businessman who built an empire that redefined adult entertainment. The seeds of this empire were sown in 1953 with the launch of Playboy magazine. Armed with a modest loan and a bold vision, Hefner transformed a fledgling publication into a cornerstone of cultural and social dialogue. Playboy's initial allure came not just from its provocative content, but from its blend of sophisticated articles, interviews, and literary contributions. It challenged the prudish norms of the time, advocating for sexual liberation and freedom of expression. This bold stance quickly cemented Playboy's place in the heart of the sexual revolution, turning it into a juggernaut of publishing. The magazine's iconic logo, the stylized rabbit wearing a tuxedo bow tie, became synonymous with the brand. It wasn't long before Playboy expanded beyond the pages of its magazine. The 60s and 70s saw the birth of the Playboy clubs, exclusive establishments where keyholders could enjoy a world modeled after Hefner's luxurious lifestyle. These clubs were not just about glamour and entertainment. They featured waitresses dressed as Playboy bunnies, adding to the allure and mystique of the brand. Television was another frontier Playboy ventured into with shows like Playboy's Penthouse and Playboy After Dark. These programs extended the brand's reach, offering a mix of celebrity interviews, musical performances, and comedic acts, all wrapped in the sophisticated, suave aura that Hefner epitomized. The empire also delved into merchandise, selling everything from bathrobes to jewelry, all bearing the Playboy insignia. This diversification was a testament to the brand's pervasive influence across various sectors of entertainment and lifestyle. Yet even empires faced declines. As the digital age grew, Playboy had to navigate through turbulent waters. No empire remains unchallenged, and Playboy's allure was no exception. As the digital tide surged, Playboy found itself at a crossroads, grappling with the vast and rapidly evolving landscape of the internet. This virtual revolution began to overshadow traditional media outlets, and Playboy's glossy pages were no exception. The brand that had once been a titan of the magazine world found its readership dwindling and its influence waning. The challenges didn't end there. Societal attitudes towards Playboy's core themes of sexuality and glamour were shifting. The rise of feminist movements and changing perspectives on objectification called for a re-evaluation of Playboy's long-standing ethos. This cultural shift pushed Playboy to rethink and reshape its identity in an increasingly progressive society. In response, Playboy made a strategic pivot. The company began to focus heavily on its digital presence, launching online platforms that featured articles and content that continued to embody the Playboy spirit, but in a form more palatable to the modern audience. They expanded into new realms with branding partnerships, lending the Playboy name to products and venues that could carry the brand's legacy forward in different ways. These adaptations were crucial. They allowed Playboy to maintain relevance in a world where print was no longer king, and social norms dictated new rules of engagement. Despite these efforts, the financial status of Playboy at the time of Hefner's death was a far cry from its golden days. At his peak, Hugh Hefner's net worth was a topic of much speculation. But what did it really entail? To understand the wealth of this iconic figure, we need to delve into the components of his estate, which paint a picture of a life both lavishly lived and intricately managed. Hugh Hefner's most significant asset was his ownership stake in Playboy Enterprises. This company, which he founded in 1953, was not just a magazine, but a complete media and lifestyle empire. At various points, its value soared as high as hundreds of millions of dollars. However, by the time of Hefner's passing, the company had seen its value fluctuate due to shifts in media consumption and brand positioning. One cannot discuss Hefner's assets without mentioning the legendary Playboy Mansion. Nestled in the Holmby Hills of Los Angeles, this sprawling estate became synonymous with Hefner's persona and the Playboy brand. The mansion, with its 29 rooms, a game house, home theater, and the infamous grotto, was valued at over $100 million. In a unique arrangement, Hefner sold the mansion before his death with the agreement that he could still live there until his passing. Beyond real estate and business holdings, Hefner's personal collection of art and memorabilia was also of considerable value. This included a vast assortment of original artwork, rare photographs, and personal items accumulated over decades. Each piece not only held financial value, but also a significant historical and sentimental value, reflecting Hefner's tastes and the era he influenced. Despite these considerable assets, the true picture of Hefner's net worth at the time of his death was complex. His wealth was tied up in his company, his home, and his collections, which, while valuable, were not as liquid as cash in the bank. Moreover, the maintenance of the Playboy Mansion and the lifestyle that Hefner was accustomed to also required substantial financial outlay. Surprisingly, Hefner's lavish lifestyle didn't necessarily translate into a vast personal fortune. Death is inevitable, and so is the distribution of one's estate. Hugh Hefner's case was meticulously planned. When Hugh Hefner, the iconic founder of Playboy, passed away in 2017, he left behind not just a cultural legacy, but also a considerable estate. His estate planning was as strategic and forward-thinking as his business ventures. Hefner's will and testament laid out clear guidelines on how his assets were to be distributed, ensuring his wishes were honored in a manner befitting his meticulous nature. At the heart of his estate plan was his family. Hefner's 4 children, Christy, David, Marston, and Cooper, were primary beneficiaries. Each received a portion of his wealth, which was carefully managed to provide for them after his death. However, Hefner's planning didn't just benefit his immediate family. He also made provisions for his staff and close friends, ensuring those who had been loyal to him over the years were not forgotten. Charitable giving was another significant aspect of Hefner's estate distribution. True to his lifelong commitment to various social causes, a substantial part of his assets was allocated to charities. These included organizations focusing on civil rights, animal rescue, and the restoration of Hollywood's historic film heritage, reflecting his broad range of philanthropic interests. Despite the vastness of his estate, the distribution process was remarkably smooth. Hefner had taken the precaution of setting up a trust, which helped avoid the lengthy and public probate process. This not only maintained the privacy he valued, but also minimized disputes among the heirs. Nevertheless, no estate distribution is entirely without challenges. There were whispers of legal wrangling among some extended family members and former business associates. However, these did not escalate into the public spectacles often seen in the estates of other celebrities. In the end, the distribution of Hefner's estate was a quiet affair compared to his public life. This tranquility in estate distribution underscored Hefner's foresight in planning and his desire to impose order and care even in his absence, ensuring his legacy was handled with the same precision with which he managed his life and business. More than the sum of his wealth, Hugh Hefner left behind a complex legacy. Hugh was not just a man, but an icon who sparked waves of debate across the seas of culture and society. He was a torchbearer for free speech and sexual liberation, credited with pushing the boundaries of both legal and moral norms related to publishing and personal freedom in America. Under the banner of Playboy, Hefner championed the rights to freedom of expression, using his platform to challenge the status quo and advocate for a more open dialogue about sexuality. His magazine became a groundbreaking forum for writers, artists, and activists to share ideas that were often considered taboo. This bold stance on free speech positioned Playboy at the vanguard of the cultural revolutions of the 60s and 70s. However, the legacy of Hugh Hefner is not without its critics. Many argue that his portrayal of women commodified female bodies, contributing to ongoing issues of objectification and inequality. The empire he built, while revolutionary, often mirrored the very societal norms it purported to challenge, painting a complex picture of a man who could both empower and diminish. As with many figures of his stature, Hugh Hefner's true legacy is as multifaceted as the life he led. His impact on media, culture, and social norms continues to be analyzed and debated, reflecting the enduring complexity of his influence. Whether viewed as a pioneer or a provocateur, his footprint on the 20th century is undeniable, leaving a legacy that prompts us to reflect on the broader implications of his life and work. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to subscribe and like this video. Thanks for watching.